Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Issues, the program where we go beyond the headlines to bring perspectives and analysis on issues of national concern. Thank you for joining us. The federal government of Nigeria in 2016 established the National Social Investment Programs with the aim to tackle poverty and hunger across the country. The suite of programs under NSIP, namely NPower, Conditional Cash Transfer, Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, and Homegrown School Feeding Program, focuses on ensuring a more equitable distribution of resources to vulnerable populations, including children, youth, and women. With a monthly stipend of 30,000 naira, the NPower program is designed to assist young Nigerians between the ages of 18 to 35 to acquire and develop lifelong skills. To support those within the lowest poverty bracket by improving living standards, the Conditional Cash Transfer program aims to disburse 5,000 naira monthly stipends to the poorest of the poor. The Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program is also a micro-lending intervention that targets traders, artisans, enterprising youth, farmers and women in particular by providing loans between 10,000 naira and 100,000 naira at no monthly cost to beneficiaries. Another pillar of the NSIP is the Homegrown School Feeding Program, which aims to deliver school feeding to young children with a specific focus on increasing school enrollment, reducing the incidence of malnutrition, empowering community women as cooks, and by supporting small farmers that help stimulate economic growth. Now, this is also in addition to the 37 intervention programs run by the Central Bank of Nigeria, some of which includes Anchor Borrower Program, the Creative Financing Initiatives, Solar Energy Interventions, Family House Ownership Scheme, etc. In August 2021, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, disclosed that the federal government spends over 400 billion naira annually on social investment programs since 2016. The Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has also revealed that the central bank has disbursed about 3 trillion naira to Nigerians on intervention programs from 2020 till date. This brings the estimated spendings on social intervention funds to over 5 trillion naira in the last 5 years. The federal government has also disclosed plans to provide 5,000 naira, which is equivalent to 2.4 trillion naira, transport palliative to at least 40 million Nigerians over the period of 6 to 12 months in the coming year to cushion the effects of the proposed removal of fuel subsidy, prompting reactions from members of the public. Now, while some question the sustainability of these programs, others point at the genuineness of the beneficiaries of the intervention. On the program today, we interrogate the issues surrounding data used by the government to identify beneficiaries of social intervention programs and whether or not it is achieving the desired results. Now, to expatiate or to give perspectives on this, we have in the studio Steve Onwachiku, an economist and financial analyst who will be giving us perspectives on this very issue. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me once again.
You're welcome. All right, now let's begin with social intervention programs. The word palliative is, I would say, has become more and more popular, under the current administration for the reasons that we have seen. COVID-19, for instance, and even before COVID-19, certain programs have been introduced with the aim to alleviate poverty in Nigeria. The administration has the ambitious plan of lifting at least 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. That began about 2 years ago. Now, some are quarreling with the way and manner in which that will be achieved. So I'm saying that these social welfare programs are not necessarily what will, change the narrative in Nigeria. So talk to us about this, social welfare programs in general.
I think maybe let me start from the point when you said that people are disagreeing or quarreling with the manner and approach the government have taken to this very social intervention program. But in the broad sense, if we should look at the perspective of what social intervention programs is and how it's run in other clients, social intervention programs are very unique programs. They are meant to solve a particular problem and they are targeted at a particular set of individuals. But what is being done in Nigeria, that's why this quarrel is the impact of those people. What is the testimonies out there in the street? Are Nigerians actually receiving this very social intervention program? And the dozens and thousands or hundreds of them that this government are climbing on Nigerians on a daily basis. In this same administration, within the spans of 4, 5, 6 years, we've had a couple of names, just like you mentioned, the word palliative become more prominent in this administration because I don't know if actually they know how to run the government or they believe more in this Babayala style of administration whereby you give people handouts. You just believe that the best is to dash people money, give people money. You don't work to improve in their human capital. So let's look at the issue of the social intervention program run by this same administration. This same administration had what we call Empower. What is the success rate of Empower? Only them can tell us. But we know for sure who are in the system that this has not touched life. Programs are meant to specifically pick at individuals, pick at certain set of people, bring the best in them and establish them so that the testimonies will be there. 5, 6, 7 years, we should be having millionaires that Empower have actually brought up. We should be having individuals being advertised on daily basis that this is what Empower program have touched in their life. This is what they have gained from the training or whatever being offered to them through this program. We also have the one recently run by Minister for State for Minister for State for Labor, Festus Keyamo, the 774,000 jobs, which is still being run as we speak, and there are claims everywhere that they are nowhere to be found. So most of these issues of relating to the social intervention programs by this government have been anchored on debt corruption. Okay. Corruption in the sense that the data statistics available are not showing that Nigerians are being touched by these programs.
All right. Now, talk to us economically speaking, from the economic perspectives. Are these tested models of stimulating the economy? What are the elements that determine the success, of a social welfare program?
Okay, I think let's look at from where you have a program and you really want to lift your people out of poverty. These are dedicated programs. You have a certain set of people. It must not be those out of school. You can also do the same program, picking people right from the school, teaching them entrepreneurship, teaching them how to do businesses, or particularly you are teaching them or trying to train them in a particular sector. Take, for instance, in the oil and gas sector, most of the expatriates are all brought from abroad. You could run a program in this sense that would train Nigerians that would take over from that sector. You could talk about the manufacturing. Most of the equipments, most of the machines used by these multinational or very big industries, most of those machines are not run by Nigerians, are not operated by Nigerians. You could also run a social program that would train people in this regard. But what this government actually focus on their own ideology of social program is a handout, just like they had the trader money, just like they have the market money, just like they have the farmer money. You can also run a social intervention program that could educate your people, empower, touch their life, not just to do a handout of 5,000, a handout of 20,000, or handout of whatever. It must not all be a handout. The same program can be training these people to obtain BScs or obtain master's degrees or obtain whatever level of education they require, so that they can improve in the economy. That's what I mean. That's my concept about social intervention program. Yes, you can also have other social intervention programs that are palliative related, whereby you have You have issues of what do you call it, disaster. You have issue of earthquake. You have issue of natural disaster that can displace people. You run a program that will take those people back to the society where you have flood, where you have fire. There are social intervention programs that could bring back those individuals or those Nigerians who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their properties to fire or to flood or to whatever. And you could also support them through a social intervention program, not in the manner this government is running it. Like I said, they only focus on giving people those handouts. But we are talking about social intervention program that will impact in the lives of Nigerians. Yes, but just like they talked about the 10 million or 100 million jobs. How would you? This is a very laudable idea if you can take 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years.
Okay, you know, the social investment programs, investment programs have so many branches, right? We have the N-Power, which itself is also having other branches as well, talking about skill acquisition, just like what you pointed out. We also have the JEEP, which is also a loan lending program by the government. We also have this school feeding program, you know, by the government as well, and so many other branches, you know, under this. In your opinion, why do you take the position that these programs have not yielded the desired results?
Yeah, because the desired results are not found in the society. If you can just go and do your investigative journalism and find that the beneficiary, just like you talked about the Empower, talked about the 77 whatever project, talked about the one run by the Minister of Sports, which is called for, I think, 7.5 or 75 billion trust fund for the youth. You talked about them, name them, all of them. Take your investigative journalism in this area and find that Nigerians who actually have this program impacted in their life, that have established by now, or having 2-3 more people working with them, or whatsoever from the trainings have impacted in their life. That's why we say there is no realities, there is no impact of this very program, which you have sunk in billions and billions of naira into, and you cannot find hundreds or thousands Nigerians who have actually from these programs benefited, that they are now established themselves and they are retraining others or empowering the lives of others. That's where we query this administration. But the lofty ideas of these programs in their form of their paper, Empower, 77,000 for what do you call, I've forgotten the acronyms they've used. Yeah, no, that's
74,000 workers from each local government.
Yes, I know, but I say there's an acronym they use for it to justify, so that you say, I think it's for supportive or something like that, for because you can work in a factory and government will be paying you. The factory may not possibly. It's actually to improve those manufacturers or those industries where you have a support staff. There is something support staff, whatever they have it. I think that's what they are using for it. So the point is that these programs have not really touched Nigerians, and that's why we query it. That's why we have issues with it. If it's a program well articulated, well planned, and have a form of monitoring, not just to throw the funds and leave it, you have a way of monitoring people to go and see if actually this is working, these programs are working. You monitor those individuals, monitor those managers, monitor those you've released these funds with. But we are not finding this.
So is it the problem of structure, you know, as to why we didn't see the results, you know, manifest on the street? Is it a problem of structure, of disbursement, or is it corruption, or what do you think, you know, is the problem?
I think it's a chain of all of them. Corruption is here. Corruption is the number one, and corruption will still be the number two. But the issue of management, issue of, like I use the word, monitoring, because you cannot just have a program and you don't have a peer review mechanism where you can review yourself, have an appraisal of what you've done, and you are throwing another program in. Now you are talking about the fuel subsidy palliative. For transport palliative, when you remove your fuel subsidy, the ones you've run, you have not touched about the impact. The one you did your trader money, how much of the market money, or the farmers money, name it. Is it the ones being done by Central Bank of Nigeria, hundreds of thousands of these programs being done, even the one run by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs? There are thousands and hundreds of such programs also run by this. There's a multiplicity of such kind of social intervention programs in this administration. That's why I kind of think that this government is a Babayala government. They just believe in handouts. Just give people handouts. Give them money. They don't believe in impacting in the lives of Nigeria, improving the working environment. This is where the challenge is.
Okay, now if you look at the COVID-19 period of the lockdown, we had the sharing of palliatives to Nigerians and all of that. Can we do an appraisal of that, palliative sharing? How did it go? And are there lessons that we have learned, even as we, begin to consider the introduction of these transport palliative, as proposed, ahead of the removal of the fuel subsidy?
Of course, the lessons are quite obvious. How the palliative for the COVID-19 ended. We know how all those warehouses were laid by Nigerians, or Nigerians went actually to take what belongs to them, that some people have locked down for quite a number of months, and they refused to release this to Nigerians. So these are the lessons, if that is the lessons. The lessons from the part that those who have been given this to distribute to the common Nigerians have actually warehoused it. So if it's a lesson, whether it will repeat itself, has it been repeating itself? Of course, that's a trend in this administration. In this very common fuel palliative or transport palliative, still believe you me that these same individuals are still within the corridors of power. They are still within the corridors of government. They will still warehouse these billions that have been mapped out to reach out to Nigerians for the effect of when these fuel subsidies are removed, what effect, to caution the effects on this Nigerian. So I still see the same individual. None of them has been punished. Did they have any report that any of these individuals that had these very palliative materials in those warehouses were prosecuted or punished? No, they are still within the corridor of power of this government, and they will still stand within this corridor of where this fuel palliative whatever will pass through, and they will still withhold it against Nigerians. So if that is the lesson, it's quite obvious that it will still repeat itself.
All right. Now, the truth is, government will still have to reach out to people by whatever program, because there's a need for that, really. But there's a problem of how to do it. How can we ensure that when we have such programs, there is effective, distribution of these funds, and that it gets to the right people, that it is intended for?
I think this is the right question. That is the solution. How can we get out of this very mess that we have actually found ourselves? It comes with sincerity of purpose. If you're sincere enough, even the program itself doesn't look sincere. Because the most sincere thing to do in this issue of the removal of fuel subsidy is to put and work on your existing refinery. That's the most sincere things that you can offer to Nigerians, and it becomes it's a genuine offer for Nigerians, and Nigerians will accept it than the issue of the subsidy or issue of the palliative. So it's a question, it has to generate from that very source of government, that trust that we have given to them. Having a sincere approach to these issues. It's not about the palliative. It's about, is this best for Nigerians? The best for every Nigerian is to have this product sell below whatever you could say, compare it with international market price. Because we have the crude here. We have existing refineries. Okay. Why don't you push these funds to this area, fix these refineries, and get this product relatively sold at a price that will not affect Nigerians doing their business? Right. Not to talk about palliative.
Okay. All right. Now let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on the program today. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching The Issues on Trust Television. And I have in the studio Steve Nwachuku, an economist and financial expert, giving us perspectives on the recent issues surrounding palliative government intervention, social welfare programs, and the likes. Now, one of the issues that Nigerians have raised, about these social welfare programs is the lack of data, a workable data on how to even identify beneficiaries, and all of that. What do we need to do to get it right in terms of sourcing of these, beneficiaries for this kind of programs?
Yes, data is quite essential. Data is everything to everything. Everything, when I mean everything on issues relating to planning, issues relating to government program. Data is everything, and data remains everything for any successful government. So if you're talking about this issue of intervention program targeted in Nigerians, targeted individual, how do you actually have a data? Yes, we've all queried that we don't have a reliable data to say this is actually the indigent Nigerians. This is actually the less privileged among us. We have no such data. Yes, we've been having data across, data from the driver's license, data from identity management, data from all sources. We have a lot of data, but has government summoned courage to harmonize this data so that you can filter it and have a clean database of Nigerians where you can run this kind of program successfully, not having individuals being paid 3, 4, 5, 7 times for the same program because you don't have a data to bring them out. We have a lot of data, we have a lot of programs that have run that have picked the biometrics of Nigeria. The NIM is there, the BVN is there, the driver's license for those who drive. In fact, driver's license is not just only for those who drive. So many people have a driver's license and they've never drove their car before. So we have enough data. It's just a question of having a collection, a convergence point for these data, harvest them and filter it.
Well, how do you determine, using such data, how do you even determine who is actually in need of this, this support?
Exactly.
Because what's the methods at the moment is that government rely on traditional rulers and religious bodies, to provide them with these names. Sometimes even political groups, associations and all of that. How is it that these groups are compromised?
Okay, thank you. I think you just brought the perspective to it, which is so fantastic. Sourcing from the scientific way and also sourcing from the traditional or conventional way by going to your religious bodies, going to the traditional rulers, going to communities to pick the same data. They are all data, but you use this scientific to filter. When you have a BVN and the data comes from a church and you use the BVM to know that the man they put his name there has over 1 million naira is that, can you filter such individual way? So that's why you need this very conventional and this unconventional way. You have this data from this electronic form where you can detect those who are actually wrongly put or wrongly put in the same scheme of number of people that will benefit. So that's why essentially the Nigerians that are being targeted in most of this program are the indigents, and most of them have not migrated into this electronic form. I'm very sure that the farmers or those in the rural area that you may need, most of them don't have BVM, they don't have bank accounts, but they may have NTN. They may have, a communication line by any of these communication agents or telecommunication agents like the MTN, the Airtel, the Glo. These are also data. You can generate the same data from those areas. So you actually rely on this very unconventional data sourcing process where you meet community leaders, you meet the village heads, you meet the kings, you meet whoever that can generate this data from this village. And most of these data are genuine. It's a question of the sincerity of Nigerians and also the sincerity of those running this program, because it's two people. If you give me a wrong data, because I have come to your community, I need to see those families, I need to see those individuals that you mentioned are indigent in your family. And because you are also corrupt-minded, you will accept those data if the numbers are inflated. But if you are not corrupt-minded, that's why I say it's a two-way. from the beneficiary and from those who are running the program, which is the government. If both of them are sincere, it will have a clean data. Go to a community A and they say they have 20 people that are indigent, and that 20 people remains 20. And this man running the program don't want to add it to 25. It becomes a clean data. But if he adds it to 25, it means that the data is incorrect. They may end up paying that 25 or paying the 5 than paying the 20. The same way, if the community, actually the 20 is the number and they added 10 to it, it means that they have been corrupted in the data. The data they provided to the government is corrupted in the sense that it's actually 20, but they inflated the figure to 30. So it works in both ways. Okay. But if it's driven by the government, making sure that this data is clean, I'm sure they will checkmate whatever data comes from those communities.
All right. Now, how sustainable is this proposal to, provide transport palliative 5,000 naira, according to what we've heard, for Nigerians to be able to cushion the effects, of removing the fuel subsidy? We are talking about selling a liter of fuel
above 340,
maybe more than 340 naira. So, how sustainable is this plan?
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. There is nowhere palliative, there is nowhere social intervention programs have worked perfectly. It's just an interventionist program, just to cushion the effect or just to relieve those individuals. Just like I said, most places you see them run these programs is when you have earthquake, when you have disasters, you have natural disasters, you have a lot that have affected these people. And you run such program to help them. It could just be people out of prisons and all that, just a way of bringing them back to the society. You run a program, is a targeted individual, and it's not meant to last forever. But what we have seen, this government, they just believe is continue to give handouts.
But they've said that the palliative, the transport palliative, is meant to,
run for 6 months, maximum of 1 year.
Months, yes. And that I mean, if you look at what has been happening in Nigeria, that fuel is a very important thing. So if there's a removal in fuel subsidy, just know that what is going to happen is equal to a disaster, in our own case. So isn't it justifiable?
Okay, let's address it from this perspective. The narrative they are throwing at is called transport handout or transport palliative. Why would you give me money than would I prefer receiving the 5,000 per month for my transportation, or would I prefer having these very amenities, transportation made available for me? Take a city like Abuja. There's no metro station. There's no metro station that would take people, at least from within these axis of Nyanya axis, down to Maraba, to Nasarawa, down to Lugbe, all this as it down to Kuba. You should have a metro train that will run this area. This is the kind of palliative, this is the kind of amenities that could actually cushion the effect of when you remove your fuel subsidy. Or you have a very standardized transport system, like we used to have the Aero 5 sort of buses. You throw them nationwide. This is the only thing that could cushion the effect of palliative, of the effect of removal of fuel subsidy. Giving people 5,000, believe you me, the sufferings will be much. Have in mind that each time you touch the price of fuel, it touches down to every order. It has a triple effect in any other item in the nation. So it's going to affect the price of food in the market. It's going to affect the price of rice, affect the price of yam. It's going to affect the price of palm oil, affect the price of gari. Every other item will be touched. 5,000 cannot solve that problem.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here. Thank you for coming on the program. We look forward to having you on the program again.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yes. All right. With that, we wrap up the issues for today. We hope that you will join us next week for another time on the program. I've been speaking with Stephen Wachiku. He is an economist and also a financial expert. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week for another edition of the program. Bye for now. My name is Ayubele.